Bret.
Hi.
How's it going?
It's going great.
Yeah, happy to be here with you on stage. I know you have a relatively new company that we're going to talk about, but before we get into it, I thought we could talk a little bit about your background, what you've been up to. For people who don't know, you've been decently successful, I think we would say. Part of the creation of Google Maps, the like button, which has taken over the internet, but I think you had the first like button, right?
That is true.
Yeah. Then after that, you were co-CEO at Salesforce. You bought Slack for Salesforce.
That's right. Still one of my favorite products of all time.
I use it every day. Oh, and then just an extra side thing, you're also the chair of the board at OpenAI.
It is a very busy side hustle.
So I guess, given all of this, and I'm not even mentioning, everything you do, we could talk about Twitter and all of the things, but, I guess my initial question is just, is there anything that you do wrong? What's the biggest mistake you've made on this journey you've been on?
I've made lots of mistakes. I mean, the fun part about technology and innovation is you don't really know what will work or what will really resonate with patients and consumers. You just have to try a lot of things. The product that preceded Google Maps was called Google Local.
Yeah.
You probably have never heard of it. Very few people have. I don't put it on my resume anymore. You only put the good stuff on there. But each one of those at-bats that you have with new technology teaches you the contours of how it's going to be used. And I think it's very relevant now in this sort of age of large language models, generative AI, because especially at a conference like this, you have one of the most heavily regulated industries in the world, whether you're on the payer or provider or revenue cycle management or pharmaceutical companies. But next to it, you have ChatGPT, which is the fastest growing consumer service of all time. And so you have consumers sort of pulling us in one direction faster than, in some ways our industry can move, often for good reason. But you can sort of see where the future is sort of pulling us. I'm probably, my primary care physician is actually backstage, believe it or not. Every time I get a lab result, I'll upload it into ChatGPT before I talk to him. I'm not sure how much he appreciates that, but I do it. And you can start to see kind of where, I guess as Wayne Gretzky would say, where the puck is going. And so I think the opportunity is, the reason I'm so excited to be here at this conference is we need to be deliberate when we're dealing with people's health and the appropriate regulation around it. But I think there's a real opportunity to take the 18% of GDP we spend on healthcare in this country and really start to bend the curve in real ways. And I think what's exciting about it is seeing the consumer innovation kind of being a glimpse of where we can take this industry in a way that I find very, very exciting.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely not alone. I think that's one of the most common use cases. Maybe it's because I'm a health reporter, but every day I hear someone saying, yeah, I put my stuff into ChatGPT, or I asked ChatGPT, should I be taking supplements, and if so, which ones? There's just so many people that are playing around with their medical information in ChatGPT.
And I would actually argue, well, there are going to be some downsides to it without question. I think it's largely good. If you think about what these AI models represent, I think one way to think about them is democratizing access to expertise, whether it's getting legal advice. I had a cousin graduate from Cal, and she was getting her first lease for an apartment complex, and she said, does anyone read these things? I said, no, but you can upload it to ChatGPT.
Yeah.
And she's probably the first person in history who got legal advice on her first apartment lease. And whether it's getting tutoring, whether it's understanding lab results, whether it's getting basic legal advice, it's changing our relationship to expertise, and I think ways that will be fundamentally democratizing. And then I think for experts in the field too, it's changing access you have to, sort of be a co-pilot, in your own experience as an expert. So I think it's really changing. I mean, it's probably, in my opinion, the most transformational technology of my lifetime, and I include the internet in that. And I think it's really exciting, especially in an industry where, healthcare is one of the few industries where we haven't been seeing productivity gains over the past decade, where we have a labor shortage, where outcomes aren't where we want them to be. And I think we will look back on this moment as, I believe, the point where we'll start bending the curve towards outcomes that I think all of us, certainly at this conference, are hoping to see.
I guess I also just wanted to, before we get into Sierra, talk a little bit about your background. I mean, as I understand it, you went to Stanford, you're like a computer science guy, but you've been at all these different companies and like, a lot of boards. Like, how did you figure out how to be good at business, basically?
The hard way, by screwing it up.
Okay.
Probably the most formative moment for me was actually when I was at Facebook. I was the chief technology officer of Facebook, and I had just been promoted into that role. It was the first time I really had a really large organization underneath me. I went from having handfuls of engineers to over 1,000 people, and I was doing about as well as you'd expect, i.e. not very well. And I had a moment, I won't go into like the details of it, but I had a really interesting moment with Sheryl Sandberg, who was one of my mentors at that company, where she kind of took me aside and had one of those tough conversations about basically you're showing up to work just doing what you were doing last month and not doing what this job demands of you. And I went through all the stages of grief when you have a hard conversation with some mentor that you have, and came out the other side, I think, changing my own perception of what I wanted to be as a leader, and in particular, having a more flexible interpretation of my own identity. As you said, I majored in computer science. I'm a self-avowed geek. I identify as a computer programmer. And I was realizing in this new role, being that wasn't what the job needed of me, and it took kind of giving up my own identity to be good at that job. And the counterintuitive thing I discovered was I liked being good at my job. And so I ended up getting this sort of positive feedback loop of being something different than my own conception of myself. And it's interesting, just taking it back to AI for a moment, I think that's an experience a lot of us will go through with artificial intelligence. Let's just take the job of being a computer programmer. It is probably the profession, I would say customer service and software engineering are the two professions being impacted most today with artificial intelligence. And we're essentially going from being authors of computer code to operators of code generating machines, which is a funny thing to say, but it's a little bit, have you seen the Hidden Figures, the Disney movie about in this movie, these women at NASA were essentially calculating the trajectory of the first rockets going to the moon, and their job title was calculator. And until seeing that movie, I didn't know that was a job title, which is telling. It's been obviated by technology. One could argue the thing I self-identify with is also being obviated by technology. And I think a lot of us are going to have similar things where the value we provide is not changing, but the way we do our job is going to change dramatically because of a technology invention. And that's a moment that's not just about technology, it's also about your own identity. It's about being able to reskill in the middle of your career. There was one woman in that movie who decided she was going to learn how to make the punch cards for the IBM computer. We're all those people now. And so I'm really grateful for Sheryl, but I think we're all going through similar kind of identity transformations in real time.
Still in one of those stages of...
Yeah, I'm in some stage of grief.
And then last thing before we get to Sierra, but I would just be remiss if I didn't ask it because it's the thing on everyone's minds is that, like, are we in a bubble? Are we not in a bubble? I've heard you say yes in the past. Are you still saying yes?
I believe we are in a bubble of some sorts, but I'll define what I believe is a bubble. I think there's a lot of capital being invested in AI infrastructure, everything from the chips to the data centers, AI companies, applied AI companies. Because there's so much self-evident value that will come from artificial intelligence, I would say capital is being applied sort of more indiscriminately and in huge volumes, which I think will lead to what you would qualify as a bubble, which is there's going to be people who lose money and businesses that go out of business. But if you look back at one of the largest tech bubbles before, it was the dot-com bubble, and a lot of people when they think of the dot-com bubble think of the failures, like Pets.com or Webvan. But if you look at the top 10 companies in the stock market, it includes Amazon, it includes Google, and both Apple and Microsoft, well, not born in the dot-com era, a lot of their value comes from technologies created in that era. As a consequence, I think a similar thing will play out here. I think we will have truly generational companies defined in this era. In and around healthcare, I think we'll see some companies gain huge amounts of market share and some companies go out of business because of the technology disruption. And I will think we'll see a bunch of snake oil. And we're going to be talking about, I don't know what the pets.com of AI is, but there is one. And I think all are true at the same time. So I think it's important not to be too cynical about it. When there's this much economic value being created, and I think a lot of it truly is self-evident. I think it's inevitable. I really believe that. You'll see capital flow maybe more freely than it should, but it doesn't mean that there aren't real-world applications today for your business, and both are true at the same time.
And clearly, you believe that Sierra will be not popped by the bubble that Sierra, like, tell us, why leave Salesforce in 2023 and start a whole new company?
Well, I'll start with just what Sierra does, and then I'll tell you why I believe it will be an enduring company. I'm a little biased in that assessment. So at Sierra, we help companies build AI agents for their customer experience. What that means is when you call up, say, a 1-800 number, rather than hearing press 3 for this or press 4 for that, you can talk to an AI agent, and that AI agent can access maybe your benefits, help you understand, your coverage, help you find providers and network. AI agents from providers can call payers. If you have SiriusXM in your car, the next time you want to maybe transfer your SiriusXM plan to another car, you'll hear a Sierra agent help you with that process. Okay. If your Sonos speaker stops working or your ADT home alarm system is on the fritz, you can talk to an AI agent to fix it. This Black Friday, we estimate that Sierra agents will reach 95% of US consumers.
Wow.
And if you think about being a retailer on Black Friday, you typically would have to hire a seasonal workforce about 5 or 10 times larger than your typical workforce, which was bad for everyone involved, because if you have someone who's been there for 10 days, they don't know anything about the product line, and obviously extremely expensive. And we're now at the point where we're transitioning, that $20 phone call into something that's more like 25 cents and enabling people to just simplify their operations. But the biggest opportunity, I think, is for us as patients, as consumers. Perhaps the most inhumane thing in the world is waiting on hold. It really is. And it's interesting. I feel bad for the agents on the other side of that, because if you've been waiting on hold for more than a minute, I don't know about you, but my temperature's pretty hot, and you take it out on the person. I mean, I try to be a better person than that, but you do. And we're in this world where I don't think people will have to wait on hold ever again. And I think we're at the point where these agents can be multilingual, they can be empathetic. I was just walking around, I saw the Weight Watchers installation. They had a really they're one of our customers, and that agent's one of my favorite agents we've worked on. It's just one of the most empathetic experiences, helping members deal with really sensitive issues like weight loss. And these agents are amazing. So I'm really hopeful that not only can we help, transform, I think, what has traditionally been thought of as a cost center in a lot of businesses, but I'm hopeful we'll just never need to wait on hold again, which I think would be a pretty good contribution to society.
So, what is that experience? I pick up the phone, I call Weight Watchers, or I call whoever it may be. How quick is the AI talking to me?
Agents will typically respond in about a second and a half.
Okay.
And it's interesting with AI, we spend a lot of time talking about things you don't think about, like how awkward is it? How long do I have to pause before it's awkward? And you think a lot about that, because AI you have to do a lot of work to make it fast enough or low latency enough to be really a human conversation.
Yeah.
What's remarkable about it, it's not perfect yet. It's not like you and I speaking, but it's already past the line where I would prefer to talk to an AI for a lot of things, because if you've ever talked to someone, it's not the fault of the person. Just imagine you're looking up, you're calling your employer and you're trying to figure out is something covered in your health insurance, or what is this provider in network? What will I have to pay if I visit them? If you're on the other side of that phone line, you're pasting in, policy numbers from one system to another. There's a team in call centers called swivel chair integration, where you're going from screen to screen. You say, 1 second, I need to talk to my supervisor. AI agents can do this in milliseconds, and so it's really an amazing experience for everyone involved. But we're talking truly milliseconds. And these agents, not only that, are multilingual. They can serve every one of your customers, no matter what language that they speak. They can serve different countries. So we have customers who are live in more than 20 different countries with the same AI agent. What's kind of remarkable for a lot of our clients is we've spent the last, call it 30 years, trying to get people to use our websites more because it's more convenient and it's much less expensive. For a lot of our clients, they've actually integrated their call center team with their digital team. They're just one team now, and they're making an AI agent. That AI agent is on their website, it's in their mobile app, and it picks up the phone. We believe that a company's AI agent will be as important as their website in the future, and it will be their primary digital interface for every one of our brands. And what's exciting about that is it will meet us where they are. No sci-fi movie has people staring at little glowing rectangles, right? All the way back to 2001: A Space Odyssey, technology melts away and we can just talk to it. Well, and that's the kind of customer experience you can create with an agent. It can be over WhatsApp, it can be over the phone. What a neat opportunity for all of our customers. Yeah,
and are you working with any customers that happen to be healthcare companies?
We are. I think we're going to be welcoming a gentleman on stage. So Sachin from Cigna, I think, will be joining us momentarily. I'm not sure if that was a cue.
That was a cue for you to say, I've got a special...
I lost it. That was like you're trying to be so graceful about that. I really screwed it up. But
you've got a special guest, I think.
How are you?
How are you? Hi.
Great to see you.
Great to see you, Bret.
And I think Sachin can put it in his own words, but it's been such a privilege to partner with Cigna.
Gosh, yeah.
We've talked a lot about this, but Cigna being such a visible brand in healthcare, investing in new technology isn't a simple choice, because you have to invest in a technology that's complex, non-deterministic, and the opportunity to transform the experience for your patients has been one of the most fun projects I've ever worked on.
And it's been fun for us too, and an amazing experience to date, because it's happened so fast and with tremendous support from Sierra and your engineering team. We've been able to get into production in less than 2 months, which is a huge calling card, I know, for Sierra, but amazing for us at Cigna to be able to go and start the experiments and drive the agents into production that fast.
So when did you start that? Was that 2 months ago? When did you start that process?
We started in September of 25.
Wow. And so what did you want? What was your ask when they came in?
So the focus, at Cigna, we have a commitment to better. What we're looking to do is improve our patient experience around access to care, providing better care, better value to our patients. And as part of that journey, what we're looking to do is improve the overall speed, accuracy, and efficacy of the experiences with our various modalities, mobile, web, and of course our call centers. And part of that journey is with Sierra in terms of delivering that agentic experience that Bret has just articulated and really driving on a lot of great performance. I think with the experiments that we've put into production, we're at approximately, I think, an 80% reduction in time to authentication and some of those pilot use cases, which is tremendous given the early returns.
And what's amazing about this is I think a lot of people think of these AI projects as first we have to fix every technology problem in our company, and that's never going to happen, right? That's like boiling the ocean. And I mean, it's been really inspiring to work with a company of Cigna's size to go live in 2 months. I really think, you've proven that it's possible, and I think it's, for us, been a really fun opportunity I joke, he's forgotten more about healthcare than I will ever know. But the opportunity we have to really improve patient experiences in this country is where you bring together great teams in AI with great technology teams in healthcare and prove that we can do this, and we can cut the time for patients down by 80%. That's just all value to patients, which is so amazing.
So help me understand this a little more concretely. Like, say I'm a Cigna member, I call in, and what would be a question that I can ask your agent, and how would it respond?
Yeah, from a vision perspective, we want to get to a point where further down the line, the capability is that of a concierge agent, able to do scheduling, to look up and consolidate bills, really answer more complex questions. To start with, something, Bret, you just said, we start small with questions about claims, for example. What is my claim status? authenticating the user, the member themselves. We've all faced the frustration of having to repeat ourselves, whether it's calling our payer, our telecom company, whatever sort of facet as
if you think waiting on hold is bad, repeating the same information to 3 different people is like a circle of,
and just proving that use case in as little as 8 weeks has been extraordinary, which really allows our patient care advocates to focus on the patient themselves. So they're not asking for the same information like date of birth and all the other indicators and authenticators. They're asking about what problem is and solving that problem quickly.
And so will it say like, hi, I'm an AI agent, or like?
Well, at the beginning, with the experiment, we're being very transparent. We want to build trust with our member base so that they understand that they're part of that experience. But in a future state, I think it will be rather seamless.
Okay.
One of the things we talk a lot about is the opportunity we have in our partnership is not simply to provide a greater experience for Cigna members, but also to build trust in AI together. We're all navigating this as a society. I mean, if you go to home for Thanksgiving and you ask what is a hallucination, almost everyone in your family will know what that means because we've actually experienced it.
Yeah.
As a society, we're learning what's great about this technology, what's not great about this technology. And I think it's really important to be transparent. You want this concierge to not be a secret. This is an AI. I actually want to get to the point, and if we're successful, I want to talk to the AI concierge. It's faster, it's more seamless. I've developed trust in it, and that's the bar we need to hit together. We need to create something that's so valuable to Cigna members that they seek it out, and I think that's the opportunity for this technology is to really enhance the member experience.
Yeah.
So in such a regulated space as healthcare, how do you test it and make sure that it's ready and compliant to be out there? Like, how do you know, to your point, that it's not going to be hallucinating crazy things like, oh yeah, this benefit is covered and it's really not?
Oh gosh, data integrity and patient data and privacy is paramount with the way we conduct our experiments and are working through AI. And what that means is that technology isn't the only actor within the center of enablement that we have, the AI center of enablement. There's privacy, there's legal, there's risk, there's audit, there's HR. And so as we work together, we're ensuring not just the data integrity, but that the talent, that the other stakeholders within the firm, including protecting our clients, protecting our patients, are thought about from every angle. So the organizational wrapper that we have to provide that safety net is really solid, and it's part of our culture.
But how actually do you test it? Just to get nerdy for a second, how does it work?
Yeah, I'll talk through a few different techniques, but it's almost like everything else in technology. We talk about defense in depth. There's not a silver bullet for anything from security to the efficacy of these systems. So first is using what we call supervisor models. So this is AI that supervises the AI. People always ask me how it works, but it's a little bit like proofreading an email. Just because you wrote it the first time doesn't mean rereading it won't work. And in fact, what we found, if you just think about it this way, if an AI model's right 90% of the time, it's a little bit more accurate than that. If you have another model supervise it that's right 90% of the time, you can be right 99% of the time. Yeah. So by cascading this intelligence on top of each other, you can really improve the effectiveness of it. The other is really testing or simulations. It's really important that a Cigna member or a SiriusXM subscriber, you want almost every single thing that you get in that phone call to have been rigorously tested before, and you can use AI to simulate clients and members and have conversations with different accents, with different background noises. And then on top of all of that, you want to use both a rigorous human review process, but also AI monitoring as well. And you layer all that together, and you can really create a regime where we like to say it's like AI is not perfect. I don't think anyone's expectation is it can or should be, but people aren't perfect either. But it's really about the robustness of your controls. How do you ensure that your agent's getting better over time, when something goes wrong that you can find out about it, and how do you have a rigorous change management process so that as you're updating this over hopefully the next decade plus of partnership that we have, that agent's getting strictly better with every single release.
And so have you gotten any feedback from the humans yet? How do they like it? Or?
Yeah, that's actually we are. So we're testing. We've got a very progressive and, as Bret said, defensive approach we call it 5, 50, 500, 5,000. In other words, we're very deliberate about how we're pushing into production and using it ourselves in terms of the membership is within Cigna itself. And so we're collecting that feedback from the users who are calling in and interacting with the agents. So that's something we're being very deliberate about for the reasons Bret just articulated. We need to build in not just defensive mechanisms, but bring in iterative sort of development and feedback so that we constantly improve the product before we roll it out and go at scale.
Okay, so it's more of a pilot stage.
Correct.
Okay, but what's the feedback been like so far?
Excellent. The feeling around accuracy. So I didn't mention the accuracy, Bret. It's well over 90%, I believe, in terms of the answers that folks are getting. And speaking of some of the distractions, when Bret and team were first demoing their product, I think I yelled out, "I'd like a cookie" in the background as the agent and the person on the phone were interacting. Because you try to simulate the unexpected, the distractions, and it worked phenomenally. And we were all laughing when I did that, but I think the point is that the technology will continue to evolve, but is already at a point where folks are fairly satisfied with it.
Okay. So when will I be able to ask an AI agent to like fill my prescription? Like what are the next applications? Once you've got the benefits and the coverage and the like find my doctor kind of things down, where are you going next? Am I way off or?
No, it's coming on our roadmap. And so as we develop out, build trust with the members, validate that the capabilities that we envision for this agent are working as expected, that is absolutely a part of the experience that we'd want to support. I mentioned earlier scheduling, consolidation of bills, looking for a prescription, finding where their prescription might be, or ordering it. All of those are absolutely enabled. Generally, within Sierra's capability set, we need to make sure that within the healthcare context that it's working the way it's supposed to.
Yeah. I'm thinking back now to our conversation earlier about ChatGPT and you putting in your labs. I'm like thinking, you know, maybe that can be part of the agent experience. You talk to the agent about, hey, I just got my test results back. Not that it would replace a clinician, but I don't know if that's something you think about as well.
I mean, we really love Cigna's vision for sort of a concierge for the brand. As a patient, the healthcare system's really complicated. You know, it's very hard to navigate, and there's a lot of stakeholders. And what I'm really excited about is this opportunity to not only make the phone calls simple and empathetic and get people what they need more quickly, which is obviously the key to it, but can we just simplify the experience for me as a patient? Can we just simplify it end to end? And it will be all the stakeholders in this room, by the way. It's not just payers, it's providers, it's everything. But I think it's everything you described, but I really love the vision of a concierge. I love that word because it's someone who's going to help you not only with the problem in front of you, but help you navigate what's ahead. And I think if you think about someone with a chronic condition, someone who maybe has an operation coming up or just had an operation, it's everything around that can be quite intimidating. I think there's an opportunity to create something that is truly more humane than the experience we provide members today. And it's interesting to say more humane in the context of AI, but I think that's the opportunity because these agents are infinitely patient. They can access a lot more context. They can speak more languages than any individual can. And you add all that up, and I think there's a real opportunity. If we have the privilege of being on stage with you here 3 or 4 years from now, I'm really hopeful we can have some experiences that are truly, awe-inspiring that we can build together.
Mm-hmm. Including phone calls out, right? You can call, like your example of surgery just made me think of this. Like you could have an agent call someone who just had surgery and talk about.
Absolutely right. And I'll throw an and statement to what Bret just said. Having that outbound capability and that level of personalization will also allow us to not only explain and simplify what may be on a patient's mind in a very distressing period, but also offer suggestions, offer benefits, sort of suggestions to utilize from a utilization perspective to put them in a better place. Ideally, that personalization will lead to better outcomes from a health perspective and lead to a win-win scenario.
Amazing. Thanks, you guys. Thanks so much for the conversation.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.